Hello, everyone. Today on our channel Crypto Texty, we are speaking about Cardano and Cardano governance project Catalyst, and we'll have a conversation with Kriss Baird, product manager of IOHK, IOG, that's the company behind Cardano. And I'm happy that we met with Kriss in Kiev a year ago, and hopefully we'll meet again. So my first question would be, your position is indicated as project manager, product manager. A lot of people confuse these two definitions, but what I see, and I'm in Catalyst since Fund 1, that you are doing really a lot of things in Catalyst. You are like Catalyst visionaires. You are doing some business development, some presentations, some managerial functions. So let's speak, maybe start with how you got to the crypto space, how you got to IOHK, and what are you doing in Catalyst?
Yeah, sure. And first of all, Andre, thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak to you and to your audience, really. It's a pleasure to, first of all, be here today, but also, as you said, to have met you in real life. So much of what we do these days is just digital and in 2D. So it was great to meet you in the flesh and in 3D. Yeah, what a great question. My background's kind of checkered, I guess. I mean, first and foremost, I've been a Cardano fanboy for such a long time, and quite literally since maybe a week or two after the first press announcements about a Japanese Ethereum started hitting the Western blockchain media. At that point in time, I had been looking for what I was looking for an Ethereum solution, if you like, or certainly a solution to the scalability or the trifecta of challenges that blockchain layer ones were facing at the time. And let's be really clear, there were really only Bitcoin and Ethereum. And yeah, so my background before that, going back to sort of 2016, 2017, I'd come from working within the UK government's innovation agency, the biggest grant funder in the UK, effectively. And I used to run national innovation programs across the digital economy, where we would set challenges for startups and scale-ups and organizations to respond to and put forward requests for grant funding. And then I was responsible for designing some of the industrial strategy around what are the competitions we should be focused on, making requests to government for that budget from UK government treasury. So I wonder whether your audience feels like this is maybe sounds quite familiar. Yeah, so this is essentially, I think, the groundwork and the foundations that led me to starting to be an employee at IOG. But yeah, I mean, effectively, after I left Innovate UK in sort of 2015, I then went on to sort of set up and establish a number of accelerator programs for social impact investment grant funders and universities that were working with private businesses and investors to accelerate and incubate really good technical ideas. And then I've been a mentor on a whole bunch of sort of programs in and around sort of the digital economy. So yeah, I guess I come with a bit of a pedigree on how to put together these types of large scale distributed programs, not necessarily decentralized, but I guess my side hustle was being very, very interested in everything that blockchain was able to enable. And so yeah, during Summit 2020, and so I'd already been a lurker within the Cardano ecosystem for like 3.
It was like when Shelley started, when Shelley and
that's right, yeah. So around about the time of Shelley, I learned that actually one of my old colleagues from Innovate UK was working within IOHK. And so I reached out to him, and we discussed that there's probably opportunities for me to maybe get involved, whether as part of the community or maybe in some other capacity. And then I did some user testing on the Marlow playground, if you remember, and have had any opportunity to play around with that. So yeah, having done some user testing with Marlow and got to know a couple of other IOHK teammates and employees, they then put me forward or recommended that I take a look at what was going on within Catalyst. And obviously, it just, for me, it made so much sense. I'd come with all this wealth of experience running these national innovation programs, and hopefully I could bring some of that great experience and knowledge around what goes on under the hood in those sorts of scenarios and environments to the plans and strategy that was developing within Catalyst and our decentralized governance ideals, really. But yeah, I mean, as I said, first and foremost, I'm a Cardano fanboy, and was just a massive fan of the team and everything that the broader IOHK was publishing, both in terms of content and research.
Yeah, just to add, Marlow, you mentioned this is smart contract language in Cardano ecosystem, and during that Shelly Summit, which was virtual because of coronavirus, a lot of people joined. And actually that's where Project Catalyst was announced. Then it was announced in the blog post. So I joined it since Fund 1, and we had first it was a closed group, and
it was small then, wasn't it? It was literally a handful of people and a handful of proposers. There was no resources up for grabs. No ADA was distributed in Fund 0 or Fund 1. There was literally just a couple of team members. Dor Garbash was leading the charge at that point, and yeah. So when I came on board, essentially I was the second of the management to join the team. And maybe just to go back to your point about the distinguishing between project manager and product manager, my responsibilities are to sort of set the vision and work on collaboratively with the community, of course, around what the strategy should be for Catalyst. And then we've got a fairly significant team now that are very product team as well, that are very concertedly working towards developing the strategy for decentralized governance, what's known as Voltaire, or has been known as Voltaire, and the Voltaire era that's going to be coming to Cardano in 2023.
Yeah, and actually you mentioned Dor, and where is Dor now? Because last time, we don't hear about him, and I don't even remember when I saw him on the town hall last time.
Yeah, so Dor's, Dor's had a family. He's now a dad, and he's gone on to work he's left IOHK and he's gone on to work with another company and to run their general management operations for the beginnings of their kind of crypto efforts.
Yeah, I see. But is he still present in the Catalyst or not at the moment, or maybe observing? Maybe.
I mean, I would say, yeah, probably lurking on the outskirts. Really, I'd be surprised if Dor was was able to put down Catalyst entirely. I like to think that he's kind of watching in the wings and celebrating the successes of the team and the community and all of the great outcomes that are now being produced from his initial leadership.
Yes, so basically we can simplify that now you are the main person for the Catalyst, or one of the main.
I wouldn't go that far. I would always say that community is made up so much more of just you and I, right? Community is I said this on a tweet recently. Community is the sum of all of its constituent parts, because without community and without the sum of all the parts together, we make sense, right? But divided, we're just a collection of letters and that just make very, very small noises without very little meaning. So I'd never say that I'm, the main person, far from it. We have a great management team. We've got a great set of colleagues within IOG or IOHK, and also other stakeholders involved in Cardano across the Cardano Foundation, Emergo, the Catalyst Circle, which is a representative body of the community that participate in Catalyst. And, what we see every single day almost are, new groups and new communities of practice that are coming together that all have a share of voice within this beautiful, beautiful thing called Catalyst.
Yes. Today we don't have too much time, so I would just ask, so how do you see, and just in case somebody is watching who is not familiar with Catalyst, it is, well, like it was called the Decentralized Innovation Fund. Maybe still there is a room to go into decentralization, because still people from IOG, and not only you, the whole team is running and controlling. But someday maybe it will be completely decentralized. So it is decentralizing every day, every week. So for those who do not know, that's a place, in other words, where people submit proposal, write reviews on proposal, vote on them, and then get funded. We don't go deep into these details, because this might be the whole topic for another videos. And there are a lot of educational information about it.
Sure. I mean, I guess to pick up on that, and sorry to cut you off, but to kind of give it a sort of a lens, right? It's a bit like a grants program. Essentially, as you said, people submit proposals and requests for funding, and those requests for funding can come from anywhere, and typically be about any particular topic, so long as currently it's helping to advance the technical capabilities or the community and adoption related to Cardano. But broadly speaking, they're requesting funding from Cardano's treasury, which is a decentralized treasury. And when we talk about decentralization within the context of Catalyst, I mean, it is decentralized. The proposals are coming in from all parts of the world. They're being evaluated by the community. They're not being evaluated by any central actors, and then they're being voted on by the wider community as well. So the only centralized part of it is the operations. And I think this is maybe one of the areas that is commonly misconceived, is that it takes quite a bit to run Catalyst, right? And it takes quite a bit of expertise. There's obviously a technical component to it, and technical resources that need to work on making sure and maintaining the technical stack, and then there's just the general fund operations. So whilst we can say that there's parts of it that are centralized, I would argue that overwhelmingly the majority of it is decentralized.
Yes, I agree with these points, and even though I have a lot of critical thoughts on the Catalyst, I won't be telling them today, because that's a long story. Maybe someday I'll write a big article about this. But in general, and what we can see, that the governance in general, it's becoming slow and expensive. And it's not that something particular to Catalyst. In general, if you see, let's say, the national parliaments, the national governance system in the countries, it is expensive. And how do you see, in this context, the evolving of fund Catalyst? Because in the past, there were fewer people, smaller budget, and fewer proposers. And now it's really growing by quantity. And by quality, I also think that it's growing because a lot of new companies, new brands were established thanks to Catalyst, because some had outside funding, some maybe had own funding, but Catalyst is helpful for companies such as Gimbal Labs, DC Sparks, and others. So how do you see this evolving process?
It's a really, really interesting question, and I think it's only fair for me to say that I don't know how it's going to really evolve in the future. But I can certainly give some opinions on how I'd like to see it change. I would certainly like to see a massive increase in the amount of voters that are participating. I would like to see, a 5 to 10x in terms of how many people participate in Catalyst decision making, because that's when we can say that we're at scale and that we've got significant, if not, getting towards majorities of ADA holders and Cardano community participating in the future of Cardano. I've always said from the day that I joined that it takes a good 2 or 3 years to really become masters of this type of process or program. And I've had 2 or 3 different encounters in sort of previous career history that it's taken a long time before it's a really well-oiled machine. And we're barely at the point where the training wheels have come off of Catalyst, even though we're coming towards the end of Fund 9, and we've had 9 cycles of this approach. To talk about the companies, then the sorts of proposers, there's a lot more people that are participating in Catalyst now, and a lot more organizations, and these are becoming more and more mature organizations. So rather than just being baby startups that have been created as a result of receiving Catalyst funding, we're now seeing universities and scale-up businesses that are from traditional legacy industries and sectors and incumbents coming to Catalyst and seeing this as a viable way to get R&D funded and financed. And we're also beginning to see accelerators and investment organizations coming to knock on our door and keeping a close eye on the sorts of outcomes that the funded projects are producing. So overall, I would say that the space is beginning to mature, and the ecosystem that Cardano has and the ecosystem within the ecosystem that is Catalyst is also maturing. So, to sort of couch another couple of ideas, this obviously requires, significant consultation with the community, and the community at large, from, you guys as individuals through to organizations, through to stakeholders like IOHK, IOG, Emergo, Cardano Foundation, around, how do we make it, how do we improve Catalyst processes? There's some proposals in place around how do we categorize funding? How do we make sure that there's continuity from one fund to another between priorities? At the moment, the community sets the challenges that are being voted on to come on into enactment and go on the ballot for and become part of the next fund campaign. How do we ensure that projects that are being funded in one fund don't just fall off the edge of a cliff because those priorities aren't voted in the next fund? So we've got some smart ideas on how to do this, and I'm very excited to see more sort of community consultation and ratification of ideas on how to produce better outcomes and create the conditions for startups and scale-ups to really thrive in this ecosystem. That's what I think is coming down the pipes in the most immediate sort of 6 months. And then when we get into next year, we're basically into the Voltaire era, right? Where we're seeing decentralized governance coming to Cardano to decide on how to create protocol updates, how to create treasury movements, how to create hard forks, and that's all going to be decided essentially through a more decentralized governance process.
So this Voltaire update, it is expected somewhere at the end of this year?
I would say we should be expecting the Voltaire era to happen sometime between the end of this year and into next year. I don't want to make obviously any predictions because that's not my place. We have an executive management team that's there to make any sort of formal announcements, and also it's software, right? So we're dealing with very, very complex and very deep technical requirements, of which need significant amounts of time to scope and then implement. And yeah, if we think of Cardano as a market leader in this space, you know, I think we're ahead on some sort of points, and you know, still looking to sort of refine some of the other existing technical debt across the organization and across the Cardano protocol and infrastructure. So you know, it's coming down the pipes, but I wouldn't like to put a particular pin on exactly when it's going to be coming to fruition.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, you are also bringing more like businesses from outside of Cardano ecosystem, and maybe even outside of crypto. You are bringing them to Catalyst and to Cardano. I remember you had proposals and successful proposals on accelerators. And so you are bringing, and this is also one of your focus, that you are focusing on bringing more businesses and more people. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, as I said, I would like to see, particularly for the startups and the projects that are getting funded, there are really clear pathways into growing and scaling those projects and businesses. I mean, ultimately, no project should rely on Catalyst funding in the long term. It's not sustainable, right? I mean, there are maybe sort of edge cases where it kind of makes sense that it's coming down from Catalyst, but you know, realistically, I think we need to take some lessons from the traditional world, where you know, if you really want to grow and scale your technology, then you know, maybe you're going to need to lean into sort of outside investment, and you know, maybe ISPOs or you know, these other types of alternative financing are appropriate in some cases, in other cases they're not. But again, you know, the important thing is that we're seeing accelerators and traditional incumbent businesses from legacy industries now beginning to pay real attention to what's coming out of Catalyst, because you know, they're getting exposed to innovation and potentially, you know, this is not financial advice, but potentially investment opportunities at ground zero, right? At their very first infancy, or very first, you know, strategic deployments and reference implementations, and then, you know, being able to kind of get exposed to where the trend and the direction of travel for blockchain innovation really is going. There's so many areas where blockchain is going to be pervasive in society, I believe. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
There were cases that Cardano companies, new Cardano projects, said they got a significant amount of funding from investments. But can we say that maybe can you name that there are projects which started like simply from the project Catalyst, so got some because still now the fund size is almost 15 million, which is like a huge size. But if you see that there are like so many categories, and then there is a cost of running this, then if you compare the competition, still it's not so easy to get this funding. And, but were there cases when the company started maybe even with only proposals, some limited knowledge of blockchain, but then grew into this successful company?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really interesting point. There have been a number of cases. So, you know, Liquid Finance first got some of their first resources from Catalyst to develop their capabilities and continue to play an active role in Catalyst, putting in, you know, funding proposals and being successful in very recent funds. A number of the wallets have been successful as a starting point for their development in Catalyst, and then yeah, you know, to talk about the sort of categories. You're right. There are a lot of categories at the moment, and there's a lot of experimentation, and this is to the point of categorization. I would really like to see maybe, you know, a more formalized way of being able to distinguish between experimentation and then, you know, going from sort of proof of concept or MVP through to sort of scale up, you know, scale up development resources to really take those projects that are, seemingly doing the business and gaining traction and doing really cool things, whether it's in the innovation from technical technical components through to sort of community adoption, and being able to ensure that they've got options to bid in for treasury funding to kind of continue and follow on fund their progress.
Yeah, there are many interesting things around Catalyst, and I'm actually these big companies and different active people from the Catalyst. I invite them to speak for the interview because today we don't have much time. And yeah, I already did some interviews, and actually it was even my proposal in Fund 1 to make an interviews, because there was a moment when Charles Hoskinson initiated. He said, "Let's go and submit proposals about interviews." So we, many people from Fund 1, submitted these proposals on the interviews, and then actually nobody. And then it happened that voting was without funding. So it's hard. It's hard to be entrepreneur. It's like not so easy. Otherwise, everybody would be entrepreneur. And I think even do you agree with saying that, like in the real politics, it is kind of a struggle for power and resources. And in this case, well, there are resources like which are simply the funds, ADA in this case, but there are other resources, maybe like connections, reputation, and other. So do you agree with this saying?
Yeah, I think that there are other characteristics that need to be taken into account. This is why over the last few months we've been iterating on how projects are able to demonstrate their progress over time. We've recently instituted or made it a mandatory requirement that each and every month, these projects that are being funded by the Treasury should be providing some level of evidence of their delivery. That helps to develop reputation and demonstrate that you've got an integrity to the project, because you're being able to demonstrate that you're achieving progress throughout, the project's life cycle. But hey, it's startup world, and it's very nascent technology. Things may break. You might need to pivot. You might need to change direction, but you've got to remain accountable to the voters that have placed their faith in you to deliver what you said you were going to deliver. And if you can't demonstrate through evidence of your delivery, then why should your community of voters place a good faith into you to continue voting for you in subsequent proposals? Whereas if you can just provide a good level of evidence each and every month, ultimately you're getting funded by the Treasury, you're sort of getting free resources. It's the least that you can do to remain accountable to your community of supporters, right? Like, it's the same with Kickstarter. If you think about the Kickstarter model, you're asking people to invest their money into your idea, and in return, you're going to give them, certain rewards or certain access or certain, value-added incentives to invest into you. What we're saying within Catalyst is we don't take that approach, but if you can't provide some evidence every month that you're making progress, then why should your community of supporters care? Frankly speaking.
Yeah, and two last questions for today, the two short questions. First, that you have many proposals in challenge setting for Fund 10, so maybe just a few words on them, and why should voters go and check them? And these are proposals, they are more like strategy oriented. So they are about infrastructure building. Maybe a few words about this.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm very conscious not to highlight any one particular proposal, but what I can certainly say is that the feedback from Consensus, which is one of the blockchain space's biggest conferences on the planet, which I was lucky to attend a couple of months ago, held in Austin, Texas. that helped to highlight that there are some significant gaps that need to be addressed within the Cardano developer experience. So there are a number of proposals, some proposed by IOHK, some proposed by the community, on how to tackle and improve the developer experience. And I think that that's probably a real significant priority as far as I'm concerned, right? Ultimately, if you improve the developer experience, you make it easier to onboard developers that are able to get to grips with the tools and the infrastructure and the code base a lot quicker, and produce more meaningful applications. And ultimately that helps to grow the adoption of developers building on Cardano, which then in turn helps to develop the reputation and the adoption of Cardano within the mainstream consumer marketplace, right? All those people that either want to use Cardano products or build products and services built on Cardano, or perhaps take an interest in Cardano as a potential opportunity for them to play another role in. So that's sort of one idea. And then I've forgotten your second question, Andre. Forgive me.
I didn't yet ask. These proposals we won't highlight. The voters go to the challenge setting.
Yeah.
They will find the
okay.
And the last question is very simple. Do you vote yourself?
Of course I vote myself.
So how many proposals approximately did you vote last fund? Was it like all proposals?
No, I mean, there's 1,000 proposals to get through. And whilst I can honestly claim to have read quite literally tens of thousands of innovation proposals over my lifetime, I can't claim to have read every single proposal in Catalyst Fund 8. I would say I probably tackled about 10 to 15% of all the proposals on the ballot last time, and there was over 1,000 proposals. So yeah, and I mean, the way that I like to deal with things is I want to read the proposal, I want to understand the team, I want to do a bit of Googling to sort of see what else is out there, or searching to see who's in the team and maybe what their background is. So I put in the time to understand the sort of challenge categories and the proposals within those challenge categories that I really care about. I certainly don't want to give sort of indications as to which ones I dive deep into, and not to influence other people's sort of decisions. But I certainly take it as a responsibility on myself and to the community to play an active role in this process. And I think everybody that's passionate about Catalyst really should do the same. And I'd encourage potential voters or others that are interested in Cardano that maybe haven't voted in Catalyst yet to come and participate. And if you don't hold enough ADA, because you need 500 ADA to participate in voting, if you don't hold enough ADA yet, then you can participate in Catalyst in other ways. You can become a proposal assessor, where you can get paid to provide your opinions and feedback to proposers about how you rank their proposal. You actually get paid for that work if it's of good enough quality. And so you might find that you don't have enough ADA today to vote in Fund 9, but by participating as a proposal assessor in either Fund 9 or Fund 10, you then might have enough ADA to participate next time round, right?
Yeah, right. So and there are also other roles, for example, then a veteran proposal assessor. You can be a referrer, so if you recommend the company which wins proposal, you get some fee. Exactly. And even as a voter, you will also get some ADA.
Exactly that. There are many different ways to play a role. The most easiest way to get involved is just to start showing up to town hall, or a town hall that's in your region, because there are now town halls pretty much in every major region on the planet.
Yeah, but the major one, it's every Wednesday, 8 in the evening Kyiv time. I think it's 5 UTC, so 17.
5 UTC or 6 p.m. my time here in the UK. Same time every single week. We have a host of different presenters. You're able to join the live Zoom room and not just participate in town hall, but you can then participate in the after town hall discussions where, you know, you'll get a real good understanding of what the priorities are in the community, and you have an opportunity to voice your opinions and perhaps even start collaborating on projects or at least proposals for funding in future Catalyst rounds. There are so many great groups that are developing now. And as I said, I just encourage anybody that's interested in Cardano to come and play and participate in Catalyst town halls.
Yes, thank you, Kriss, for interesting conversation. Looking forward to see you in someday. So, thanks.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much, Spasibo, Andrei, and thank you very, very much for the opportunity to speak to you today.